So one of my favorite aspects about this film is Storm's arc. She starts off the film, obviously, with a lot of darkness in her, and when she meets the misses, they propel her into the light and kind of embracing who she is and becoming the warrior that she is at the end towards the film. So I'm curious, in your lives, at that age, did you have a missus? Were there a group of misses who propelled you to become who you were and embrace the warrior you became?
I had a pretty tough grandma who taught me how to be. I grew up in Nashville with a bunch of very strong Southern women around me. But I will say I had an incredible English teacher who was very inspiring to me. She was incredibly intelligent, and she taught me that you can escape whatever world you're in through reading and through books, and that was huge for me.
And for you, Oprah?
Oh, I didn't have that. And 14, the age that Meg Murray is, was one of the roughest periods in my life. So I wished I had known that I had some spiritual guides, or I would have liked to have called in the Mrs. or wished the Mrs. had showed up for me. But obviously, I believe that we all, in our own way, have guides that lead us to the best, highest place for ourselves if you're open to listening. And I think they eventually got me here. So didn't happen at 14, though. Did not.
Right. And for Mindy?
I mean, there's obviously the people who loved me in my life, but I think the real misses for me were like books and magazines and learning. This is pre-internet. So when I was her age, the fact that you could see a big world outside of my little house, and I had such big dreams, but I didn't understand what to do with them. And just reading and looking and reading in magazines really helped me think bigger and think that, help me with my ambitions.
Yes, for me it was 17 magazine, which said every girl needs a cashmere sweater in multiple colors. I mean, listen, we're on welfare. I'm like, what is a cashmere sweater?
It's cashmere.
What is cashmere? Every girl needs
colors.
Multiple colors, cashmere sweaters. I'm like, when I get rich, I'm gonna have. So now in my house, I've got all of these cashmere sweaters. I never wear it, but there you go.
Last night I was watching the movie and I was thinking about the speech you gave at the Golden Globes, and you told an incredible story about watching the 1964 Oscars, Sidney Poitier coming on that stage, winning that award, and you said, what a moment for a little girl to be at home watching this man win this award. And it's all about representation and diversity. And I'm curious, to me it reminded me of the little girls and little boys who are going to watch this film and look at that screen and see themselves on the screen. Can you talk about that and what you hope people look at the screen and go, that's me?
Well, that's one of the wonders of this film. First of all, look at this inclusiveness here. I mean, this palette of color. Yeah. And to be able to have this little brown girl, mixed race character, Meg, who represents girls of color all over the world, see themselves and imagine themselves with that kind of power, just having that reflected back to them is unimaginable, really. We can talk about it, we can speculate, we can say what we think it means, but we all had the pleasure of watching Storm see herself for the first time when she watched this film. And the awe and wonder and pride that she felt, I was thinking, oh yes, she's in the movie and she's looking at, did I do that right? And was that okay? And all the things you do as an actor. But around the world, I was imagining millions of girls seeing the reflection of themselves up on that screen and what that does to embolden and empower you.
And last question, my favorite thing about your character is the lines that she delivers. My favorite part was the outcast line. I was like, yes! I was like, that was such a great line. I was thinking to myself, in some kind of meta world, if your character could have delivered an Oprah quote, what do you think would have been? I feel like she could have been like, "You get a car, you get a car, you get a car."
Wouldn't have been that.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting that she, like, if Oprah had not been in this movie, Mrs. Who would have definitely quoted Oprah, but because she was there, she was conspicuously, it would have been too, like, meta or whatever. But, we had someone who interviewed us who said that they used a quotation from Oprah at their wedding vow, and so, I just, it's incredible. That's the only downside of having Oprah Winfrey be the star of your movie is
you can't use an Oprah quote.
You can't use an Oprah
Is there a
quote
quote you think they should have used if they did?
Well, I think so many times in the film, there was a wonderful line where Mrs. Which says to Meg Murray, do you realize how many millions of events had to take place in order for you to be exactly who you are. I think Ava had heard me say that to one of my girls at one time, and she said, I wrote that for you because I'd seen you say that to one of your daughters. I have all these daughters from South Africa. So I've said that over and over and over in one form or another. So that is my line.
Well, thank you for this great honor. It was a pleasure to be here with all three of you. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I love the arc of your character. She's obviously she's filled with darkness for a while, and she's forced to find the light, forced to become a warrior, and realize her true potential and self-discovery. I'm curious, for you particularly, who was the misses in your life that pushed you through that and kind of got you into becoming a warrior that you are today?
Wow, great question. I had 3 misses in my life: my mom, my Aunt Denise, and my grandmother. I grew up with 3 powerful women who just pushed me to be the best I could, even when I didn't want to.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you currently have a missus in your life?
Yes, of course, my mom and my older sister, Paris. And I mean, it would, I guess, sound cliche to say, but like Miss Oprah and Miss Ava and Miss Reese and Mindy, they're all, I mean, the misses in the movie, of course, and then the misses in my life because they encourage me and they, I feel like, want me to be great and are making opportunities for me and helping us come together. So I love them.
Yeah.
Maybe at a younger age, was there somebody or a group of misses in your life that helped you become the warrior you are today?
Wow. I wish I had Mindy, Reese, and Oprah in my life when I was 13. No, probably, my mum obviously is the first missus in my life. I think, growing up as like this household initially, as it presents as a single parent household, finding that strength to sort of keep a family together. My mum is always and still, throwing in pearls of wisdom and, really grounds me and, makes me feel like I can be anything I want to be. So, yeah.
Chris, was there somebody in your life like that?
Yeah, I had an English teacher, Lynn Cohen, when I was 15 and having a bit of a difficult time in my life. That was a lovely, lovely woman, would let me escape to her English office to talk, and she was actually, I did my first play with her and got into acting kind of through Lynn Cohen.
Wow.
A gem of a human. Good heart.
Really, really cool.
Yeah.
And as you can tell, I'm a big fan of filmmaking. I'm curious to ask you both this from your own perspectives. As an actress, what was the hardest effects shot to pull off? And as a director, what was the hardest effects shot for you to shoot?
What was the hardest one
Was it
for
the
you,
flying
Stella?
one? I'm curious what yours was.
No, the flying was great. I loved the flying. I had a hard time in the forest when the trees were coming up. Yes, and that was real hard for me because, of course, that doesn't really happen in real life. You can't imagine trees coming up from the under your feet. So that was real hard for me. We've had a lot of long conversations and laughs about it. But other than that, it was really fun.
And for you, what was the hardest effect shot to pull off as a
The hardest
director?
effect shot. Yeah, I think it is the forest as well, but a different one, a different portion. The day that we were out, it was a real rainy day. I had to add more rain to that mud, and there was these kids, and they were cold, and I was concerned that they were cold, and that's when she says, "Do you trust me? I trust you." She really meant, "Get me out of this rain." That's what she meant. Yeah, it was a big day.
I was watching Oprah's speech over from the Golden Globes, and she brings up this great story about watching Sidney Poitier take the stage and win the Oscar in 1964. And I remember she says in the quote that, you have no idea what that moment felt like as a little girl to see that person on stage taking that award. I was curious, this film is all about representation, and I'm curious what you expect from women and men, but boys and girls, as they watch this film and they look at the screen and they see themselves on camera.
Yeah, I just think it's important for kids of all kinds to be able to see images of themselves. We know how powerful images are. Yeah. They really move and shape culture. And so, Storm, has grown up in a time where she's been able to see different images of herself. But we want to expand that. The boy that plays Charles Wallace is a little Filipino-American actor. Yeah. Mindy Kaling, the Southeast Asian woman. More people need to be able to see themselves. Yep. When the last time you saw a native kid in a mainstream thing? Never. So we need to open it up for everyone, and hopefully this film is a little part of that.
I'm genuinely curious how you did the bouncing of the ball scene where everyone's bouncing in sync.
How do you think I got all those kids to bounce?
That's what I'm wondering. Is it digital? Like, did you really
Am
have?
I that brilliant that I can make all these 9-year-olds bounce and sync? We had them bounce, and then I just retimed it afterwards.
I was so curious.
Because at first I thought I was going to be able to do it, and then I got there and I was like, this is a mess.
Impossible.
Let's just do it in post.
One of the themes that resonated with me in this film was the bullying aspect, because I dealt with that in school, not to the extent that your character was dealing with it. But I'm just curious, for you as an actress who portrays a character as being bullied, have you dealt with bullying in your own life? Has it affected the way you look at bullying? And do you have advice for people who are going through bullying at an age as yours?
Thankfully, I haven't been bullied that much. When I first moved out here from Atlanta, Georgia, there was like kind of people kind of picking on me and picking that I was on TV, whatever. But really stepping into Meg's shoes, of course, none of us should support bullying, and we want to stop that. So being Meg and kind of being her and kind of dealing with that firsthand, as much as she did have to go through it, was kind of compelling to see, and how she kind of dealt with it. And even though in the movie, I mean, she doesn't deal with it in the best way at first. She just wants it to be over, and she doesn't really care what people are saying about her. It's more about what she wants for her family and what they're saying about her family. So I feel like she's kind of selfless in that way, even though she kind of handles it in a bad way.
The crowd reacts great when you hit Veronica in the face with that ball. I'm like, yes! Yeah, it was good to see you guys. Curious what you guys were like in high school. Like, was bullying something you ever dealt with? Do you have advice for people who are going through bullying at this moment? Because it is a theme of this film that Storm's character deals with, especially with the Veronica character.
I mean, like my character in the film, I was a real nerd at school, and I was sort of unashamedly hardworking and geeky and academic, and that was never cool. I was not cool, and I mean, for me, bullying is awful, and I think that hopefully young people going through that will see this movie and know there is a world outside of high school. There is a world beyond, and often I think whatever, it sounds like a cliche, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and these experiences will actually help you to garner your character and your strength of spirit. So I think, whatever you're going through, it's going to make you stronger in the end.
Who was Chris Pine in high school? I'm curious.
I hated high school.
Me too, man. I did too.
I had awful cystic acne for like years. I spent the majority of being 15 wanting to disappear from the planet.
Oh God.
Just really miserable. I hated it. It was really hard, really hard, really hard. So I thankfully didn't go to a school where bullying was a thing, but I certainly know a lot about feeling like you want to disappear and not all those, adolescent, being insecure, not knowing your place, not knowing who you are, what you want to be. Life is a journey, and I guess, to any kid feeling that, I think we all, to each one of us on planet Earth, have gone through something difficult, and as GuGu said, to power through, and it does, as my father would always say, is like, and this too shall pass. You just keep on saying, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. And it's hard in the moment to grab onto, but,
Well, it's good to see you guys. Now you're Captain Kirk and Steve Trevor, so all those people in high school can just screw off. So you're all good, man.